Now, what's in our community? Homelessness is reaching epidemic levels. And since 1969, Pine Street Inn has been on the front lines in the fight to end it. President and Executive Director Lyndia Downey is here to tell us more. Lyndia, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
And first, congratulations on your 25 years with being with the Pine Street Inn.
Well, thank you. It doesn't feel like 25 years, I have to say. I was 10 when I came to work at the Pine Street Inn. But honestly, it's been a wonderful 25 years. I have loved every minute of it.
And the Pine Street Inn has been providing vital services to both men and women for 40 years now. Can you tell us some of the ways that you help these thousands of people?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Pine Street, interestingly, is known mostly as a shelter, and we really do, I would say, soup to nuts. We have 2 vans that go out on the street every night, 2 outreach vans that bring people in if they want to ride into shelter. For people who don't want to come in, we take out food and we do basic first aid and we take clothing out to the street for people. We run a number of shelters for men and women. We have a number of job training programs, including a small business we run where we provide food for other nonprofits. It's a small business that's going to gross about $1 million this year. The proceeds go back into providing job training for our guests. And then what people don't know about Pine Street is we're actually a very large developer of affordable supportive housing for people leaving homelessness. So of the 1,300 people we work with every day at the inn, about 550 are now in housing either owned or managed by Pine Street.
And this is another milestone for you too, right? It's been about 25 years now?
Yeah, 25 years of developing housing and really focusing on housing as a solution. We'll always have a need for shelter, but we know that if you can give people the right support, almost everybody can hold on to their housing and keep their housing.
And I was reading some facts, and correct me if I'm wrong. So there are 7,000 people in Boston every night who are homeless.
Yes, that's families and individuals together.
And so that it does include children,
yes, it does.
too?
Yes.
And you serve 3,000 meals a day?
We do. We do. We're a busy place. We provide meals, clothing. We find the basics for people to keep them alive until we can get them out and into housing and on with their lives.
I mean, I certainly think a lot of people, when they think about shelters in Boston, they think of the Pine Street Inn. And I understand that you're also on a mission to be a national leader in the fight to end homelessness. Can you tell us about that?
Pine Street, interestingly enough, really, I think early on pioneered the whole idea of really treating homeless people with respect. The term guest, we call the people who come to stay at the inn guests, and it was Paul Sullivan who started Pine Street who really coined that term because we wanted people to feel welcome. There's still a lot of stigma for people who are homeless. It's a very much an uphill battle for them to get out of homelessness, and we wanted a refuge and a place for them to come. And I think that idea of respect for people has continued, and I think it was really Paul Sullivan, who started Pine Street 40 years ago, who really created a different atmosphere for people and tried very hard to get at the stereotypes and really educate people about homelessness. So I think that's one area where Pine Street has been a pioneer. I think the other area, we really were very early adapters on supportive housing. So Pine Street's been doing supportive housing for 25 years. Now everybody's talking about housing first and supportive housing. We all know it's the right way to get people out of homelessness. We know it's the answer. We're not sitting down at Pine Street saying, gee, what do we do with all these folks? We know exactly what works. It's really how do we get from a system that has been mostly about shelter to a system that really should be mostly about housing.
And something I think that's interesting too, like you were saying, about finding shelter for people, but Pine Street is also about the follow-through, because I understand that you have substance abuse services or people who have a mental disability to try and keep them guided on the right path.
We do. We have a number of substance abuse services right at the end. We try and pair that as people get stable and sober. We pair that with job training so we can really help people figure out how do they knit the pieces of their lives back together. Because once you get to Pine Street, you've really lost everything. Forget about the material things you've lost. You've lost your family, your friends, you've lost any support system you have at all. And our job is to help people knit all that back together and get them back into the community and back to hopefully where they were. So you have to do all those pieces, and you have to then have housing at the end of that for people, or else all that effort really is for naught.
And you were talking about job training. You have culinary training?
We do. We have a social enterprise we run called Abundant Table, and that's a small business where our guests provide food for other nonprofits. And of those 3,000 meals we make at Pine Street every day, 1,000 actually go out to paid customers. And so the homeless men and women who stay at the inn actually prepare those meals and they deliver them, and they really run the business. They have some help, but it's been a wonderful experiment for us, because one of the things we found is that smaller nonprofits who don't have capacity to cook really welcome the help with the meals they need to prepare. It gives us some revenue, so our guests get some job training time. So it's been a wonderful business for us, and all the revenue from the business gets poured back into paying the wages and the food, and our guests get something to put on a resume so they can then start to look for a job.
Lyndia, thank you so much for joining us, and again, congratulations, Pine Street Inn, its 40th anniversary and your 25th anniversary.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Now, if you're interested in volunteering or donating, just log on to pinestreetin.org.